Thank you, Dave. Can we have lights much brighter? Not to cloud this. Okay, can you see this here? Great. May I want those spots all? Okay, welcome to ICRISAT. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm happy to see you all today. And let me see our colleagues from Sub-Saharan Africa. Let me start with West and Central Africa, led by Farid Walyar. Can you please all stand? Can we give them a big, big hand? Welcome. Let's move on to Eastern and Southern Africa, led by Said Salim. Please stand. Okay, thank you. Let me do by programs this time. So which means our African colleagues will stand twice today. Resilient Dryland Systems Program led by Peter Crawford. Please stand. Now we are referring to the major engagement of scientists because a number of scientists are engaged in a number of programs. So can we give them a big, big hand? Great, thank you. May I request the Markets, Institutions and Policies Program led by Cynthia Bansila. Great, welcome. Let's move on to the Grain Legumes Program, led by Ciel Gauda. That's great. Okay, welcome. Let's now move to the Dryland Cereals Program, led by Stefania Grando. Now, let me bring two cross-cutting programs. The Knowledge Sharing and Innovation Program led by Dilip Kumar and Tristan. Okay, thank you. Let me now hold on to the PTPC and the Agribusiness and Innovation Platform led by Kiran Kumar. Okay, thank you. There is one important office that we have institutionalized since the new strategic plan was put in place. This is the Impact Assessment Office. Where is Tito? Can you give me the Okay, thank you. I also invited this morning the group of managers who are here in Hyderabad. Please all stand, including program leader of FETS. All of you stand. The strategic marketing and communications is led by Joanna Jane Potaka. Okay. Can we now also give a big round of applause to the DDG Research, Dave Washington. Richard Burgos, with you to start. Now, thank you and good morning again. I hope we have recovered from the week-long CRP work planning last week for those already who were here, and to include the very successful launching of the 2 programs that we did, grain legumes and dryland cereals. The feedback we got from partners have been exceptional. They were impressed with preparations, they were impressed with the deliberations, and I believe the very outcomes that we have planned for have been met. And again, let me thank Dave Hoisington for a wonderful job. Certainly, the biggest issue facing us this week is how to transition our work most effectively in the new CIGAR research programs. That's a new way of life in the whole system. This is a new way of life in ICRISAT. Our anchor point is our strategic plan to 2020. So even with CIGAR research programs, we are not discarding our strategic plan to 2020. And I vote continues to be valid as our unified conceptual framework. And that's why early enough in my message to you, before you, is such an important, very compelling, unifying strategic framework that all of us must internalize and appreciate and operationalize as early as then, 2010, but much more so under this new way of life, the CIGAR research programs. We heard last week Frank Richberman, the CIGAR CEO, asking whether the value chain approach might be the same as IMO. He asked us in many of the various interactions. And we said, while there is much in common, and I specifically outlined that, this is an innovation that we continue to do, and I believe there are significant differences, and I want to briefly review with you today because I think it is important for our work planning this week. First and foremost is the I, for inclusiveness, for inclusive, simply. That is the most ambitious and idealistic part of IMO. In a simple value chain approach, inclusiveness is not necessarily involved. In fact, the value in value chains usually goes to the wealthy, to the rich, not to the poor. So again, it is a very purposeful and systematic way of engaging with our smallholder farmers, the very poor people that we need to serve in the dryland tropics of the world. That's why we said they are key to any strategy or approaches that we have to have the poor smallholder farmers. And what makes INOD different is that we explicitly commit to include the poor again in this value chains. And that is business not as usual. It requires out-of-the-box thinking. It requires institutional reforms, policy reforms, changes in our breeding objectives, changes in our impact pathways, changes in our partnerships. It does not happen automatically. Please review your work plans to be sure that your work advances the cause of inclusiveness in market-oriented development. Especially, please put priority on women. They are poorer than men. There is no debate about this. If we truly care about the poor, then we must truly prioritize the needs of women. They have less access to money and land. How do we harness value chains in special ways that especially benefit them? So question your past assumptions. If the technologies we offer them require lots of access to land, then we are offering them things they probably cannot use. And more efficient processing machinery may simply increase their workload if they are required to spend more hours processing more grains. Please discuss with the gender experts inside and outside and review the evidence. Make your work plans based, again, on scientific evidence. How do we really treat women with IMO colleagues? Make value chains truly work for the poor. And again, IMO is key. Second, please remember the O. It stands for oriented. Okay? We purposely chose the word instead of driven. In many ways, we use driven, market driven. But in this particular instance, we have a specific purpose and objective why O was used. Our strategy is not to have markets drive the poor off the cliff. Value chains create risk, and IMO recognizes that risk and addresses it. So we are not setting setting aside the risk, because that's a major consideration when you are going to work in the dry land tropics of the world. Risk factor, risk management will always be necessary because the risks are so high. We also committed to research on how to enable farmers to reinvest some of their gains in becoming more resilient. What have we done on that? And what do we plan to do? Third, please do not forget the D. Okay, that's not DAR, that's not development. Yes, it's development. Okay, D is for development. And value chains alone do not consider development. For the poor to join in, a development process has to happen. Where do they get their inputs, their credit, the information? Where and how do they sell their goods? How do they get their fair share of the value? How do they reinvest in resilience? What are we going to do about these questions? And what do we plan really to implement? Fourth, the end. Here we mean much the same thing as in value chains. But are we doing the best we can in addressing the market factor? Have we carefully considered how strong the demand is for our products? Have we done market assessments? Have we used this in priority setting? Are we putting priority on those markets that will benefit the largest numbers of poor? Have we identified the actors who will make these markets happen and held partner dialogues with them to gain their support, whether they're large food companies, donors, philanthropies, socially minded big businesses like Tata and Unilever and others? Markets and value chains will not just materialize out of thin air. If we have examined such questions, we will have addressed the scaling up potential of our technology and laid out our impact pathway as required by the Strategic and Results Framework of the CG and now the CGI research programs. We will have identified who does what, why and when. This is what work planning should be about. When it comes to the how we do it, I know clearly requires new or reinvigorated partnerships. Traditionally, our partnerships were really or nearly entirely in the production sector of the value chain. But IMO cannot be effective if we remain only in that single box. We can no longer make excuses that we produce outputs, but the other guys in the value chain did not pick them up. We have to look at the whole chain and engage the appropriate partners to address any blockages. Fairly or not, we will be judged by our impacts, even if somebody else did not do his or her job. Again, while we look at the very importance of basic research, we do strategic research, but at the same time, we need to manage that these outputs that we do will create outcomes and in the end, create impacts necessary for the poorest of the poor to get out of poverty and transit them into mainstream market-oriented development. Briefly, I want to outline a few partnership principles and values that I believe we must all subscribe to and implement in practice. The best partnerships are those that share a common purpose, with clear roles and responsibilities, and sharing of decisions from beginning to end. In the strategic plan, we call it partnerships with purpose. We recognize that new partners would need to be brought on board to provide the competencies required for IMO. I think the partnerships with purpose concept still a good guiding light. Have we gone out and found those new partners? Or are we staying in the box, in our comfort zones? Our partnerships must always uphold the value of mutual respect. When we plan a new initiative, without involving our partners, but then at the last minute, call them in to endorse what we have already planned, we are not showing them respect. A good test of a respectful relationship is the golden rule. Have we done unto our partners as we would have them do unto us? Would we appreciate being asked to receive a delivery of technology that we are told is good for us, that it is too late to question, and that we should therefore now implement it? Of course not. So we would want to be involved, and we would want to co-develop and co-deliver the technology on an equal partner basis. Let's please plan our work to fully involve those partners relevant to the targets we are pursuing. You know, in our strategic plan, we also flagged some very important areas where we needed stronger capacities. We call them critical focus areas, and there will be a session for that. But let me just again mention that these critical focus areas are still very relevant to the CG research programs. We have made a good start on some of them, but we have made less progress in others. We are moving ahead on the critical topic of impact assessment, but have we significantly reformed our work to address gender inequities? One of our sister centers has made a high-profile commitment to gender transformative research. We cannot lag behind on this issue, which is very high on the agenda of most of our important development investors. How are we progressing on strengthening our geospatial capacities and our capacities in modeling and scenario analysis? I know that we are progressing in the modern integrated breeding platform. I especially want to highlight the critical focus areas of knowledge sharing and information and communication technology, because they impact on partnerships. We need continuing dialogue, not just biennial meetings. We need to walk the talk, not just talk and walk away. How can we have strong CG programs unless we harness modern technology to improve our communications with our distant partners? If we have made a commitment to stronger partnerships, let's have a clear list of action items that we will be held accountable for. Clearly, we have much to do this week. It's a great opportunity for innovation, creative thinking, a new attitude, looking again at the future, but delivering on the promise of today. Let's harvest the low-hanging fruits that are already there, but setting in place the long-term pipeline agenda that we need to have. Our donors are looking for those low-hanging fruits today, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now. Of course, they will continue to look for all of these, but today they need already upscaling and delivery, co-delivery of these low-hanging fruits that will now impact into the lives of the smallholder farmers and the poor in the semi-arid tropics of Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, before I close, the future of ICRISAT lies in you. Again, to reflect that if we do plan and implement the CGR research programs that we are engaged with, and do really put up and create the outputs that are necessary, the outcomes that are needed, and impacts that must be done, then ICRISAT will continue to be as relevant as ever. And I believe that those centers that cannot deliver already in the next 3 to 5 years will be left away on the sidelines. Remember this. It is our performance that will make this institution fly higher. Thank you and good day.